was culturally diffused as a form of art to entertain or entrance people. The first examples of manga, which were Japanese comics, are Zen cartoons, which were of the medieval period, and comic animal scrolls during the 10th century. During the 13th century, pictures of the afterlife and animals were drawn on temple walls, sort of like modern manga. And in the 1600s, it was known as Edo and was drawn on wooden blocks. They were often erotic but spread to other topics such as satire. Manga going to America from Japan became more colorful with more and different scenery. Once manga was diffused to America, it was more accepted in Japan when before you could have been arrested or killed for making manga. As well as becoming more widely accepted, it became less obscene as it grew in popularity. Korea created a form of manga and called it manhwa, but it meant comic books of all kinds. And it is only in America that manhwa is specifically Korean comics. Soon after manga was diffused to America, Canada, Japan, Korea, France, and Russia, they began creating manga or comics to compete with Japan. Most of the time, manga and anime was used by other countries, such as Russia, as a means of talking their country up and others down. Korea, for example, used anime to make other countries look weak, and Russia also used anime to gain favor in their political parties. Political parties were found all over in anime in France, Russia, Canada, the United States, Korea, North and South, and China. Anime also introduced things such as martial arts and sports to make it more popular. They also added Kempo and ninjutsu to make villains such as pirates and mercenaries more comedic instead of malicious. Anime is now in modern day life, and instead of like before in the past where anime was ignored or let go without thinking, it now has a bigger effect on society than most think. Anime is used as a tool for government propaganda. This means that anime and its co-partner manga are affiliated with the government more so than it was before. As a result of its global diffusion, anime now isn't looked down and despised by the government, but instead it is used for the government's benefits. Even though manga and anime is accepted more so now than it was before, manga and anime are still not fully accepted in all parts, including its originator Japan. Although Japan has chosen to publish anime and manga, it still has tough times on its own home turf. Anime such as the popular Death Note is frowned upon by many adults in different locations. This anime or manga is about a boy who finds a book dropped by the Death God, which allows him to kill somebody if he knows their face and name by writing it down in his book. This anime is hated upon in Russia, and many adults in Russia have tried to ban such animes under the name of it making kids demented and it being harmful to the minds of the public. In the 1940s, organizations like the New Cartoonists Association of Japan and the New Cartoonists Faction Group were formed. As well as the organizations being formed, the government was utilizing the cartoonists that were not banned or in the army to influence the community. The government used anime comic strips to make other nations, their enemies specifically, to look bad. and anime was accepted, most of the time people could get jobs a lot easier with their art skills, and different age groups were allowed to create anime to make money, and it produced more of an influx of money. Many critics of anime say that anime makes children and teens more violent, but what they don't say is that children who watch anime have a more creative sense of thinking and how to create an original piece of art. Anime also comes in different forms for different demographic groups. Anime can come in mostly these 5 categories: shoujo, which is for young girls; shonen, which is for young boys; seinen, which is for teenage boys or young males; joshi, which is for young women; and finally, kodomo, which is for children, mostly little kids, with animes like Hello Kitty. The difference between American cartoons and Japanese anime is that children generally watch cartoons, whereas anime is popular among the Japanese adults as well. In 1963, Astro Boy was created by Osamu Tezuka as the first anime. Osamu Tezuka was greatly influenced by Disney, and though he loved the way that Disney created their animations, he hated the way they portrayed themselves and their commercialism. After Tezuka created his first company, Mushi Productions, which he later called Tezuka Productions, he came out with a series called Jungle Taiti, or Jungle Emperor, and it was brought to America under the name Kimba the White Lion. It is under belief that Disney plagiarized many of the ideas of Kimba and called it the Lion King. Three years after Astro Boy kicked off, there was an event called Worldcon. Worldcon, or World Science Fiction Convention, is a convention held annually since 1939 by the World Science Fiction Society. Worldcon was greatly influenced by anime with activities such as gaming, roleplay, and costuming. Costuming, in a way, is sort of like cosplay. Earlier in times, costuming was more science fantasy based, but in more recent times there's been a cosplay tinge to it. At the 1984 Worldcon, a man called Nove Takahashi from Heart Studios was given the idea of cosplay by costuming. He wrote extremely positive reports of it in Japanese science fiction magazines, thus commencing the Japanese cosplay movement. Cosplay is different from costuming in many ways. In North America, costuming is for people of all ages and genders, and they create their own characters and costumes. Whereas in Japan, cosplay is generally a young woman's hobby, and they have to look and dress like a pre-existing anime character. In the 1990s, anime was influenced by the Western culture, which we would call now cross-pollination, that enriched and complicated anime. It was also considered an assault on American morals around this time. From 1991 to 1995, large advances in technology and animation were made. Nothing else major was going on except the kickoffs of Macross and Giant Robo. In America, anime was made by creating manga, or the comics. It was then taken to things such as Shonen Jump, which is a magazine with the newest or most popular manga. And then it would have hopefully been introduced to an anime production company. All cultures have at least 2 main religions. For example, Japan has Buddhism and Shinto. It's important to have at least least a basic understanding of the religions because there's many customs, allusions, and metaphors in anime connected to Buddhism and Shinto. Although anime reflects mostly on Japanese culture, it does carry some aspects of Eastern culture's supernaturality. In the anime that culturally diffuses to America as well as other countries, the factor that remains the same is that the child main character looks at the elders with respect and for advice. Although anime originally started with sci-fi, it gained more women through the use of more complicated emotional plots that grabbed the attention of the female population and made them keep on watching and reading. Now, in the modern world, the old anime was usually only tied to sci-fi and fantasy, now has everything, whether it be war, horror, romance, magic, or sports. Anime has become something that could be mainstream or non-mainstream, and is now something that takes an imagination, a creative plot, and some good drawing skills to make real. Anime has also evolved to the point that it no longer belongs to a certain gender at all times. While some anime and manga is geared to one side at times, with battle manga, anime, or a comedy, both genders can enjoy the anime and manga to its fullest. In anime, not just the movements of the character is taken into account now. These days, the anime has to take into account the lights at the background as well as shadowing and color. It has become more precise with everyday developments of technology. New techniques for anime are created as well. Anime also incorporates the different types of clothing seen wherever it originated. Japanese manga and anime may use kimonos and Japanese-style clothing, while American-based anime have American clothing on them. At times of battle, manga not only takes into account one culture's fighting technique, but it also has many fighting techniques from different regions, where karate, jiu-jitsu, and even Brazilian jiu-jitsu can come together. Cultural diffusion is an idea that travels from its birth or origin to be influenced or influence other cultures, and it occurs when an idea is produced to be sold or showed to other people.